The day my world cracked open didn't arrive with thunder or warning. It came quietly, like betrayal always does. Late afternoon sunlight spilled across the hardwood floors of our Westchester home as I carried Lily's backpack in one hand and my MacBook bag in the other, ready to start our usual evening routine. But when I pushed the door open, an unfamiliar perfume, sweet, sharp, expensive, filled the air. At first, I thought Nathan had guests from work. He'd been chasing a promotion for months, and our home had become a revolving door of favors and pretended hospitality. But then, I heard laughter, high-pitched, rehearsed, coming from the living room. Lily peeked behind me, her tiny fingers gripping my coat sleeve. Standing in the center of my home was my mother-in-law, Carolyn Reeves, pearls shining under the warm lights. When wearing that permanent smirk she saved just for me. But the woman beside her made my heart stop. A younger woman. Perfect hair, perfect dress. One hand resting gently on her stomach, as if she were cradling something precious. "That's her," Carolyn announced, smiling like she'd won a prize. "Madeline, this is Aubrey. She'll be staying here for a while." I blinked. "Staying? Why?" Aubrey tilted her head, voice soft and sticky. "Nathan said it would be better, for the baby, if I stayed somewhere comfortable." My throat closed. Lily clutched my leg and whispered, "Mommy." "Who is she?" Before I could answer, Nathan stepped out from behind them, guilt painted across his face, but not enough to cover the arrogance simmering beneath. "Madeline," he said quietly, "let's not make a scene." A scene? They had moved his mistress and her unborn child into my house. The world didn't shatter. It didn't scream. It simply tilted. And in that tilt, something inside me shifted. Something quiet, razor sharp, and far more dangerous than they imagined. Because none of them knew the house they were standing in wasn't legally his anymore. The living room felt smaller by the second, as if the walls themselves were tightening around me. Aubrey wandered casually through the space. My space. Her fingers brushing over framed photos of Lily's first day of preschool, our wedding portrait, even the ceramic bowl Nathan and I made during a weekend pottery class years ago. She touched everything with the careless ownership of someone who believed she already belonged here. Carolyn watched her with pride, like presenting a new trophy to the family. "You see, Madeline," she said, folding her arms. "A woman like Aubrey understands Nathan's world. She dresses properly. She knows how to behave in front of important people." The insult wasn't new, but spoken inside my own home, in front of my child, it bit deeper than ever. Nathan avoided eye contact, pacing with his phone in hand. I could see the glow of his notifications, work emails, boardroom messages, praise he craved like oxygen. He was terrified of losing status. That fear had become more important to him than the marriage we once built together. Lily tugged my shirt. "Mommy, where will Aubrey sleep?" Before I spoke, Carolyn interjected smoothly. "Sweetheart, she'll sleep in the big bedroom. Mommy will take the guest room for now." My heart clenched so hard I thought it might stop. The audacity, the cruelty, the rehearsed betrayal. I inhaled slowly, refusing to let my voice shake. "No one is moving into my bedroom." Nathan finally looked up. "Madeline, just calm down. Mom thinks your mother doesn't decide anything in this house," I said, each word landing like steady blows. Carolyn scoffed. "Oh, please, you're acting like you own the place." Silence. A dangerous, electric silence. Because on paper, legally, quietly, irrevocably, I did. But I said nothing. Not yet. Let them think I was fragile. Let them believe I would break. Aubrey stepped closer, one hand on her stomach, feigning innocence. I don't want to cause trouble. Nathan just said it might help everyone adjust. Everyone, meaning me, his wife. The living room twisted in my vision, a place once filled with laughter now thick with humiliation. But beneath the humiliation, something else flickered. Calculation. Because they had no idea the storm they had just awakened. And tomorrow, I would make the first move they never saw coming. I stood frozen in the hallway long after the voices in the living room quieted. The house smelled different now. Heavy, unfamiliar, tainted by someone else's perfume. I closed my eyes, letting the memory of who Nathan once was drift to the surface, sharp and painful. There was a time when he used to meet me at the subway station after work, holding a warm latte because he knew I never ate lunch on audit days. A time when he kissed my forehead before every presentation, whispering, "You're the smartest woman in any room." Back then, he was gentle, grateful, almost humble. But something changed the year he started climbing the corporate ladder. The suits got more expensive, the attitude sharper, the phone glued to his hand, even during Lily's bedtime stories. I remember sitting across from him at a small Italian restaurant in Manhattan, our anniversary dinner, watching him scroll through emails while my pasta went cold. When I finally asked if we were okay, he laughed and said, "Madeline, stop being dramatic. This is what success looks like." Success. That word had slowly eaten him alive. One night, he came home smelling faintly of a floral perfume I didn't own. When I questioned it, he fed me an excuse so polished, I almost believed him. A coworker hugged me at the elevator. "Relax." But after that, he stopped touching me altogether. I tried saving us. I truly did. Therapy appointments he skipped. Date nights he canceled. Conversations he avoided like they were landmines. I blamed myself for months, thinking I wasn't enough. I wasn't exciting. I wasn't her, whoever she was. I didn't know her name then. Now I did. Aubrey. The irony was brutal. Lily's quiet footsteps pulled me from my thoughts. She came to me clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide with fear. "Mommy, are we still a family?" My heart cracked clean down the middle. I knelt, brushing her curls gently. "Yes, sweetheart. You and me, we're always a family." But as I held her, something cold and certain settled in my chest. Nathan had stopped being part of that family long before Aubrey walked into our home. And the next truth was even colder. I had already prepared for this day, long before they realized they'd pushed me too far. Dinner that night felt like walking into a performance staged entirely for my humiliation. Carolyn had set the table as if hosting royalty. Fine china, crystal glasses, cloth napkins folded with dramatic precision. But the centerpiece wasn't the food. It was Aubrey. She sat confidently in my chair, the head of the table, her hands folded delicately over her stomach, as though she were the honored guest. Nathan sat beside her, avoiding my eyes, tapping his Mont Blanc pen against the table like a man wishing he were anywhere else. "Madeline, you're late," Carolyn announced, her voice sharp. We waited as long as we could. I glanced at the clock. It was 6:03, 3 minutes late. Lily tugged my hand, whispering, "Mommy, that's your seat." But before I could say anything, Aubrey gave a soft laugh. "Oh, it's okay. I can move." Carolyn's hand shot out, stopping her. "No, dear, you stay. Madeline doesn't mind, do you?" Every word sliced a little deeper, but I kept my expression neutral, unshakable, because reacting would mean giving them exactly what they wanted. Nathan cleared his throat. "Maybe we can all just sit down and eat." So I took a seat at the far end of the table, away from my own husband, my own life, feeling the shift of power settle into place like a stone pressing on my chest. Carolyn ladled soup into bowls, her voice dripping condescension. Aubrey needs proper nutrition. It's important for the baby. Nathan has been so attentive, making sure she's comfortable. I felt my stomach twist, but I remained silent. Then Lily, innocent and unaware of the daggers floating in the room, looked at Aubrey and asked softly, "Is your baby my sister?" Aubrey hesitated, eyes widening. Nathan froze. Carolyn smiled too widely, and I felt something inside me break, not from pain, but from clarity. This wasn't a family dinner. It was a declaration of war. One they believed I was too weak to fight. I lifted my spoon, tasted the soup, and set it down calmly. Because only I knew what they didn't. By this time tomorrow, I would no longer be the woman they thought they could erase. That night, the house felt colder than any winter I had ever lived through. Not because of the temperature, but because of the silence. The calculated, punishing silence they expected me to drown in. After dinner, Carolyn escorted Aubrey upstairs as if she were a visiting queen instead of the woman sleeping with my husband. Nathan trailed behind them, carrying Aubrey's overnight bag as though it were something precious. Meanwhile, I guided Lily to our room, the guest room, as Carolyn had so generously renamed it. She clung to my arm, sensing the shift in the air, even though she couldn't understand it. "Mommy, why is Daddy helping her? Doesn't he want to help us anymore?" Her voice trembled in a way that made every bone in my body ache. I kissed her forehead, smoothing her curls. "Daddy is confused right now, sweetheart, but you're safe, I promise." Once Lily fell asleep, I stepped into the hallway. The house was dark except for the faint glow coming from upstairs, our master bedroom. The room Nathan and I once shared. The room where we made plans, whispered dreams, fought, forgave, lived. Now I could hear muffled voices through the partially closed door. Carolyn's authoritative tone, Aubrey's delicate whimpers, Nathan's low murmurs trying to soothe them both. They made decisions about my home while standing on floors I had cleaned, under a roof I had helped pay for, in a space built from years of sacrifice and long nights at the office. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed, followed by Carolyn's irritated voice. "Be careful, Aubrey. You're pregnant. Madeline doesn't know how to handle delicate things, but we do." A deliberate jab, a reminder, a weapon. My chest tightened, but not from pain anymore, from awakening. I walked back downstairs and paused at the bottom step, staring into the dim living room. The scent of Aubrey's perfume still clung to the air like an unwelcome ghost. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from restraint, from holding back everything I could easily unleash, because I had options, legal ones, financial ones, strategic ones, and they had no idea. In the stillness of that cold night, beneath the weight of betrayal, a single truth crystallized inside me. I wasn't the woman they were pushing out. I was the woman they should have feared all along. By morning, exhaustion clung to me like a second skin. I had barely slept. Every whisper from the master bedroom drifted through the vents, each one a reminder of how drastically my world had shifted. Still, I forced myself up before Lily woke, slipping into a pressed blouse and tying my hair back with deliberate calm. I refused to let them see me crumble. Downstairs, I found Carolyn already in the kitchen, criticizing the dishwasher as if it personally offended her. Aubrey sat at the counter in silk pajamas, sipping the latte Nathan used to bring me every morning. Nathan hovered protectively beside her, eyes darting toward me with a guilt he was too cowardly to name. "Madeline," Carolyn said, No, waving a dismissive hand. Aubrey shouldn't be stressed. Be a dear and handle the chores quietly today. I didn't answer. I simply grabbed my keys and stepped outside into the cool air, letting the silence steady me. I walked to the end of the driveway, pretending to check the mailbox, because that's where he told me to meet him. A sleek black Mercedes rolled up, the tinted window sliding down to reveal a familiar face. Garrett Monroe. Older now. Sharper. A calm steadiness in his eyes I hadn't realized I craved until this moment. "Madeline," he said softly. "You sounded unlike yourself on the phone. Are you all right?" "No." But I nodded anyway. He stepped out of the car and handed me a slim folder. "I reviewed everything you sent. The mortgage, the deed, the refinancing records. You did the right thing calling me. You're more protected than you know." My breath caught. "So the house is legally yours alone?" he confirmed. "Nathan never bothered to read the fine print you added during refinancing. Smart move." Smart. Funny how betrayal sharpened a woman's instincts. I opened the folder, hands trembling, not with fear, but with dawning power. Garrett studied my face. "Madeline, tell me what happened." For the first time since this nightmare began, my voice cracked. "They moved her into my home, Garrett. Into my life." His jaw tightened, something dark flashing in his eyes. "Then we won't let them stay." Before I could respond, the front door opened behind me. Nathan stood there, glaring. "Madeline," he snapped. "Who the hell is he?" And just like that, the first real battle began. Nathan stormed down the driveway like a man who'd just discovered he wasn't in control of his own story. His jaw was tight, his steps sharp, his pride bleeding through every movement. Garrett didn't flinch. He simply slid his sunglasses into his pocket and stood tall beside me. Steady, composed, unbothered. "Who is he?" Nathan repeated, voice rising. I didn't answer. Not because I couldn't, but because watching him panic for the first time was illuminating. Garrett spoke instead. "I'm an old friend, and Madeline hired me for legal consultation." Nathan's eyes widened. "Legal consultation? For what?" Garrett tilted his head, offering a polite, lethal smile. "That's between me and my client." Nathan turned to me, face reddening. "What are you doing? Trying to embarrass me? Trying to ruin things with Aubrey?" I almost laughed at the absurdity. He was the one who brought a mistress into our home, yet somehow I was the problem. "I'm protecting myself," I said quietly. "Something you stopped doing a long time ago." He scoffed. "Oh, please. You're overreacting. Mom said you'd blow this out of proportion." There it was, the truth behind everything. He wasn't a leader, he was a puppet, and his mother was pulling every string. Ignoring his tantrum, I turned back to Garrett. "We should go inside. I need to gather the documents." Nathan blocked the path. "You're not taking anything out of this house." Garrett stepped forward, voice low and icy. "Legally, she can take whatever she wants, including the house itself." Nathan blinked, stunned. "What?" I didn't wait for the fight. I brushed past him and walked inside. The kitchen smelled of Aubrey's cinnamon latte, the one Nathan used to bring me. The sting was real, but it fueled me instead of breaking me. I pulled out my MacBook Pro, opened the drawer with our mortgage statements, bank files, insurance policies, and the refinancing documents Nathan had signed without reading. Every signature was there, every box checked, every detail in my favor. Garrett reviewed them one by one, nodding slowly. "Madeline, this is even stronger than I thought. You have full leverage." Outside in the hallway, Footsteps approached. Fast. Angry. Carolyn. She burst into the room, eyes blazing. Why is a lawyer in my house? I closed the folder gently. Actually, Carolyn, it isn't your house. Carolyn's expression twisted as my words echoed through the kitchen. She looked from me to Garrett, trying to gauge whether I was bluffing. Garrett didn't give her the satisfaction. He simply opened the folder, slid a copy of the deed across the counter, and tapped the highlighted portions with the tip of his Mont Blanc pen. Madeline is the sole owner of this property, he said calmly. It's all here, Mrs. Reeves. Black and white. Carolyn snatched the paper, scanning it with frantic eyes. This must be a mistake. Nathan signed the refinancing papers. Yes, Garrett replied smoothly. But he never read the amended clauses Madeline added. He forfeited his ownership share. Legally, he has no claim. Her face drained of color. For a woman who built her identity on control, losing ground this fast was a wound she couldn't hide. You tricked my son, she hissed. I held her gaze, unblinking. No, I protected myself. There's a difference. From the doorway, Nathan appeared, his voice tight. Mom, what's going on? Carolyn thrust the deed at him. Fix this, now! Nathan scanned it, his complexion shifting from confusion to disbelief to panic. Madeline, what did you do? What you forced me to, I said. Prepared for the day you stopped choosing our marriage? He stepped toward me, lowering his voice as if reason could be salvaged. We can talk about this. You don't have to. Garrett cut him off. She doesn't have to do anything, but she can do everything. That struck him harder than any physical blow. Aubrey's voice floated in from the hallway, soft and shaky. Nathan, is everything okay? The stress isn't good for the baby. All three of them turned toward her, instinctively forming a protective circle around the woman who destroyed my home. And in that moment, the strangest thing happened. I felt nothing. No jealousy, no heartbreak, just clarity. I gathered the documents, slid them back into my folder, and said, This is only the beginning. Carolyn stepped forward, trembling with rage. If you think you're going to push us out, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You might want to sit down, Carolyn, I said quietly. Because the next part affects you more than anyone. Her eyes narrowed. What part? I closed the folder with a soft click. The investigation. The word investigation hung in the air like smoke, thick, unsettling, impossible to ignore. Carolyn froze. Nathan's mouth fell open. Aubrey instinctively stepped back, clutching her stomach as if the truth itself were a threat. What investigation? Nathan demanded, though his voice cracked on the last syllable. Garrett answered before I could. Your mother's unauthorized withdrawals from the Reeves family trust. The ones routed through a shell company in Nevada. Color drained from Carolyn's face faster than I thought possible. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, Garrett replied. And so will federal auditors once they receive the files. Nathan whipped toward her. Mom, what did you do? Her lips tightened. I did what I had to do to keep this family afloat. You needed support for that promotion. Your father never believed in you. Someone had to push things along. A sickening silence fell. So that was it. Every manipulation, every insult, every attack on me, all designed to protect her empire and his ego. Aubrey's trembling voice broke through the tension. Nathan, is this serious? Because I can't. Stress isn't good for the baby. For the first time, Nathan didn't run to her. He didn't comfort her. He didn't even look at her. He was staring at me, as if realizing the ground beneath him wasn't just cracking, It was collapsing. "Madeline," he said quietly, "you wouldn't actually report her, right?" The disbelief in his tone was almost comical, as if after everything, he still expected my loyalty. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked past him and headed toward the living room. The perfume lingering on the furniture stung my nose, but it didn't sting my heart anymore. Something stronger had taken over. Conviction. Behind me, I heard Carolyn hiss, "She's bluffing. She always folds." Garrett let out a low, humorless laugh. "Not this time." I started collecting items that belonged to me. Photo albums, Lily's toys, important files. Not because I was leaving, but because I wanted a record of everything that mattered before the storm hit. Nathan followed me in, voice shaky. "Madeline, we can fix this. Just talk to me." I finally turned to face him. "We passed the point of talking the moment you let another woman sleep in our home." He opened his mouth, but a sudden knock at the front door cut through the room. 3 sharp, official-sounding knocks. Carolyn gasped. Who is that?" I didn't move. I didn't need to, because I already knew. And this time, the consequences weren't coming for me. The knocking grew louder. 3 sharp, deliberate raps that cut through the house like a blade. Everyone froze. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Carolyn clutched the back of a chair as if it could anchor her. Aubrey's hands flew protectively to her stomach. Nathan looked between all of us, fear finally replacing arrogance. I didn't approach the door. Instead, I knelt beside Lily, who had wandered out of her room rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Mommy, why is everyone yelling?" she whispered. My heart ached, but before I could respond, the knocks came again. Nathan hurried to the foyer, adjusting his shirt as though he could make himself appear respectable at will. When he opened the door, his voice cracked. "Officer, can I help you?" A uniformed man stepped inside, holding a plain envelope. "Are you Nathan Reeves?" Nathan swallowed. "Yes." The officer handed him the envelope. "This is a notice regarding financial irregularities connected to the Reeves Family Trust. You and your mother will need to appear for questioning." Carolyn's hand flew to her chest. "This is outrageous! You can't just—" The officer didn't flinch. "Ma'am, this is a formal notice. Please read it carefully." Nathan turned to her, panic twisting his features. "Mom, what did you do?" Before Carolyn could respond, Lily tugged my sleeve again. Her voice was soft, but clear enough for everyone to hear. "Daddy, why did you bring another mommy to our house? Mommy cried last night." A silence so heavy followed that even the officer paused. Aubrey's face drained. Carolyn's mouth fell open. Nathan stared at our daughter as if her words physically struck him. "Madeline," he whispered, "is that true?" I lifted my chin. Children don't lie about what they see. Lily looked directly at him, eyes glossy. You hurt Mommy." For the first time since this nightmare began, Nathan's expression cracked. Not anger, not denial, but shame. Raw, unmistakable shame. Aubrey reached for his arm, but he pulled away. "Madeline," he said hoarsely. I didn't know she heard." Of course he didn't. He hadn't been paying attention to anything that mattered. The officer cleared his throat. "If there's nothing else, I'll be on my way." But there was something else, because as the door closed behind him, Garrett stepped forward, eyes narrowed on Nathan. "Actually," he said, voice like steel, "there's one more truth your family needs to hear tonight." Garrett's words sliced through the room, redirecting every pair of eyes toward him. Even Lily sensed the shift and pressed closer to my side. Carolyn stiffened like a predator sensing danger. Aubrey's grip on her silk robe tightened. Nathan frowned. What truth? Garrett didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at me, asking permission without speaking. I gave a small nod. I was done protecting people who never protected me. He turned to Nathan. Your girlfriend hasn't been honest about her finances or her employment. Aubrey blanched. What? That's ridiculous. But Garrett continued smoothly, slipping a document from his folder. Aubrey Sloan is under internal review by her company for involvement in a falsified expense scheme. Nearly $40,000 routed through accounts she approved, enough to face charges if the investigation proceeds. Nathan's mouth fell open. Aubrey? Is that true? Aubrey shook her head rapidly. No, they're just targeting me because I'm pregnant. Garrett raised a brow. Interesting, because according to HR records, you told them you weren't sure who the father was. The room went silent, utterly, violently silent. Carolyn's face twisted with disgust. You're telling me the child might not even be Nathan's? Aubrey's voice cracked. I didn't say that. I said there was confusion with dates. Nathan staggered back as if struck. You told me it was mine. I think it is. His expression shattered. I watched it all unfold with a strange calm. Maybe grief had already burned through me long ago, and what remained was clarity. Garrett stepped closer to Nathan, voice low. This is the woman you threw your marriage away for. Aubrey reached for Nathan, sobbing. Please don't listen to them. Nathan, I need you. He backed away from her. Hard. Carolyn erupted, pointing an accusing finger at me as if clinging to the last branch of denial. This is your fault. You brought that lawyer here to destroy us. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. You destroyed yourselves, I said quietly. I'm just done covering it up. Nathan sank into a chair, fingers buried in his hair. I can't deal with this right now. But he didn't know the worst was still coming. Because as Garrett closed the folder, he revealed one more document, one that made Carolyn visibly pale. We haven't even discussed the hidden account in your name, Carolyn. Carolyn staggered back as if the floor had tilted beneath her. A hidden account? What nonsense are you talking about? Garrett laid the final document on the table with surgical precision. The account ending in 9137, opened under your maiden name. Large transfers made over the past 3 years, all traced back to the Reeves Family Trust. Nathan's head snapped up. Mom, you told me the trust funds were untouched. They were, she insisted, voice shaking. I only borrowed, temporarily, for family reasons. Garrett arched a brow. Funny, because the deposits from that account were spent at luxury boutiques in Beverly Hills, a private cosmetic clinic, and a resort in Maui. Very family-oriented. Aubrey's eyes widened. You went to Maui? You told me you were caring for your sick sister. Carolyn glared at her. Don't pretend you're innocent. You were using my son's credit cards like a slot machine. Nathan buried his face in his hands. I can't believe this. I stood still, watching the chaos unfold, like a storm tearing through a house already cracked at the foundation. They were turning on each other faster than I expected, and a truth settled into my chest, warming me. I didn't destroy this family. They destroyed themselves. I simply finally stepped out of the rubble. Garrett cleared his throat. As of this morning, the Financial Crimes Division has opened a preliminary file. They will move to a full investigation if any party involved fails to cooperate. Carolyn grabbed Nathan's arm in desperation. You have to protect me. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Nathan shook her off. I have my own problems now. My job. God, if they find out. Aubrey stepped closer, voice trembling. Nathan, what about me? What about the baby? He looked at her like she was a stranger. I don't even know if the baby is mine. Her breath caught. Nathan, please! Stop! He exploded, slamming his fist on the table. You all lied to me. The house fell into stunned silence. Then slowly, he turned toward me, the only person in the room who hadn't deceived him. Madeline, he whispered, voice stripped bare. I need your help. I met his eyes, calm and unshaken. You lost the right to ask me for anything the moment you let her into my home. Carolyn gasped. Nathan paled, because they finally understood. I wasn't done yet. Nathan stood in the center of the living room, shoulders slumped, eyes hollow. For the first time since this nightmare began, he looked small, like a man who finally understood the weight of his own destruction. But pity was a luxury I no longer carried. Carolyn paced behind him, muttering half-formed excuses about the trust fund, about being misunderstood, about doing everything for her son. Aubrey sat on the couch, pale and trembling, clutching a throw pillow as if it could shield her from the consequences rushing toward her. And then, as if all the chaos hadn't been enough, Nathan straightened and made the mistake that sealed everything. We need to restore order, he said stiffly, avoiding my eyes. Aubrey will move into the master bedroom permanently. Mom will stay to help until things calm down. You and Lily can remain in the guest room, for now. For now, for now. The words echoed like gunshots. I stared at him, my pulse steady. You're telling me, I said slowly, that your mistress will take my place in my home while your mother supervises? He exhaled in irritation. Madeline, don't make this dramatic. This is what's best for everyone. For everyone? My laugh was quiet, disbelieving. Or for you? He rubbed his temples. Look, I know this is hard for you, but once the baby is here, I cut him off. A baby you're not even sure is yours. Aubrey flinched. Carolyn stiffened. Nathan froze. And yet, he still pushed forward, blinded by entitlement. It doesn't matter. I'm responsible for protecting Aubrey until we know. And you, he pointed at me, need to stop fighting this. Accept it. Accept it? The man truly believed humiliation was something I could swallow if he ordered it politely. Garrett let out a low breath behind me. You really have no idea who you're talking to. Nathan snapped. This is a family matter. Stay out of it. Garrett stepped forward, voice like steel. Madeline is my client, and what you just proposed is illegal, unethical, and frankly, pathetic. Nathan's face reddened. I don't care. This is my house. My rules. I closed the folder in my hands, each click echoing like a countdown. It's not your house, I said softly. He opened his mouth to argue. But then he saw what I was holding, the eviction notice. Nathan, Carolyn, Aubrey, your time here is over. The room erupted. The screaming began the moment the eviction notice left my hand. Carolyn lunged forward first, snatching the papers with a trembling fury. This is outrageous! You can't evict us! We're family! I met her wild eyes with calm she couldn't comprehend. Family protects each other. You've done the opposite from the moment I married your son. You tricked him, she spat. You manipulated the documents. Garrett stepped beside me, arms crossed. Everything filed was legal, properly disclosed, and signed willingly by Nathan. If he didn't read the clauses, that's a consequence of negligence, not deception. Nathan rounded on him. Stay out of this. Garrett didn't even blink. Or what? You'll embarrass yourself further? Aubrey finally stood, clutching her stomach dramatically. Madeline, please. Think about the baby. We can't be thrown out like this. I held her gaze. You walked into my home knowing exactly what you were doing. Whatever happens now is yours to carry. Nathan's voice cracked. Where will we go? I tilted my head. You didn't worry about where Lily and I would go when you moved another woman into our home. A silence followed, heavy, humiliating, final. Then I turned and walked to the master bedroom. The door was still slightly open from earlier, a thin strip of light spilling across the hallway. I pushed it wider, staring at the room that once held the best parts of my life. Now it felt foreign, suffocated by Aubrey's perfume, her clothes scattered across furniture I had chosen. One by one, I packed my belongings from the room, not because I was leaving, but because I wanted my things cleansed of their presence. As I folded the last sweater, a photograph slipped from the drawer. Our wedding day. Nathan kissing my forehead. Me laughing like I believed forever was unbreakable. I sat on the edge of the bed, that old version of myself flickering like a ghost beside me. How had I stayed so long? How had I given so much to someone who valued so little? A quiet strength bloomed in my chest. This wasn't the night I broke. This was the night I woke up. I stood, ready to end what remained of this illusion. But as I reached the doorway, Garrett appeared, expression grave. Madeline, he said softly, there's something else you need to see. It changes everything. The screaming began the moment the eviction notice left my hand. Carolyn lunged forward first, snatching the papers with a trembling fury. This is outrageous! You can't evict us! We're family! I met her wild eyes with calm she couldn't comprehend. Family protects each other. You've done the opposite from the moment I married your son. You tricked him! She spat. You manipulated the documents! Garrett stepped beside me, arms crossed. Everything filed was legal, properly disclosed, and signed willingly by Nathan. If he didn't read the clauses, that's a consequence of negligence, not deception. Nathan rounded on him. Stay out of this. Garrett didn't even blink. Or what? You'll embarrass yourself further? Aubrey finally stood, clutching her stomach dramatically. Madeline, please, think about the baby. We can't be thrown out like this. I held her gaze. You walked into my home knowing exactly what you were doing. Whatever happens now is yours to carry. Nathan's voice cracked. Where will we go? I tilted my head. You didn't worry about where Lily and I would go when you moved another woman into our home. A silence followed. Heavy, humiliating, final. Then I turned and walked to the master bedroom. The door was still slightly open from earlier, a thin strip of light spilling across the hallway. I pushed it wider, staring at the room that once held the best parts of my life. Now it felt foreign, suffocated by Aubrey's perfume, her clothes scattered across furniture I had chosen. One by one, I packed my belongings from the room, not because I was leaving, but because I wanted my things cleansed of their presence. As I folded the last sweater, a photograph slipped from the drawer. Our wedding day. Nathan kissing my forehead. Me laughing like I believed forever was unbreakable. I sat on the edge of the bed, that old version of myself flickering like a ghost beside me. How had I stayed so long? How had I given so much to someone who valued so little? A quiet strength bloomed in my chest. This wasn't the night I broke. This was the night I woke up. I stood, ready to end what remained of this illusion. But as I reached the doorway, Garrett appeared, expression grave. Madeline, he said softly, there's something else you need to see. It changes everything. Garrett's tone alone told me whatever he discovered wasn't small. I followed him downstairs, my pulse steady, not from fear, but anticipation. Carolyn and Aubrey were still arguing in the living room, their voices sharp and frantic. Nathan sat on the edge of the couch, looking like a man who had aged 10 years in 1 hour. Garrett opened his leather briefcase and slid a document across the dining table. "This came through from a contact at the SEC," he said. "It's about Nathan." Nathan's head jerked up. "Me? What now?" Garrett tapped the page. "Your company is conducting a silent internal audit. They've flagged irregularities in the expense reports you approved, ones that conveniently match Aubrey's." Aubrey's face went white. No, that's not possible." "It's more than possible," Garrett said. "It's documented." Nathan grabbed the paper with trembling hands. As he read, the blood drained from his face. I watched him carefully. A part of me once would have rushed to comfort him, tell him we would handle it together. But that woman no longer existed. Nathan had buried her the day he opened our home to another woman. He looked up slowly, panic swirling in his eyes. "Madeline, I could lose my job, my career, everything." I folded my arms. "Actions have consequences." Carolyn cut in, desperation rising. "You can fix this, Madeline. Call someone, explain that there's been a misunderstanding. You're good with numbers. Tell them he didn't do anything wrong." I met her gaze without blinking. "I'm not saving a man who didn't think twice about destroying our family." Aubrey stepped forward, voice trembling. "If Nathan goes down, they'll investigate me too. Please, Madeline." I didn't mean for all of this to happen." A bitter laugh escaped me. "You meant for all of it to happen. You just didn't expect the fallout." Garrett placed a reassuring hand on my back. "You don't owe them anything." Nathan raked a hand through his hair, shaking. "Madeline, please. You don't understand what this will do to me." "I do," I said quietly. "Better than you realize." His breath hitched. "What does that mean?" Before I could answer, headlights swept across the windows, cutting through the room with blinding intensity. A sleek black vehicle pulled into the driveway. Garrett's expression hardened. "Madeline," he murmured. "They're early." The black vehicle rolled to a stop in our driveway, its headlights slicing through the tension-thick living room. For a moment, no one breathed. Carolyn clutched the armrest. Aubrey's eyes widened in dread, and Nathan rose slowly, as if expecting the car itself to deliver a verdict. Garrett checked his watch. "They weren't supposed to arrive until tomorrow, but early work's in our favor." Nathan's voice cracked. "Who is it? The SEC? The police?" Garrett didn't answer. Instead, he turned to me, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "This is your moment, Madeline. Do it your way." My way. For years, my way meant compromise, forgiveness, quiet endurance. But tonight, my way meant closure. I stepped toward the foyer as the car door opened outside. Heavy footsteps approached. Confident, measured, official. Nathan hovered behind me, practically shaking. Carolyn muttered prayers under her breath. Aubrey gripped her stomach, trembling. The doorbell rang. Nathan whispered, "Madeline, well, please, don't do this." I opened the door. It wasn't police. It wasn't auditors. It was a court officer delivering the confirmed eviction order, fast-tracked because Garrett had filed with evidence of financial instability, domestic hostility, and legal urgency. "Mrs. Madeline Hayes Reeves?" he asked. "Yes," I answered. He handed me a thick envelope. "This is the official confirmation. You now have full legal authority to remove any non-owners from the premises immediately." I thanked him and closed the door gently, almost tenderly, because the moment that followed didn't need theatrics. Silence filled the room as I turned back to the people who had torn my life apart. Nathan, Carolyn, Aubrey. My voice was calm, steady, unshakable. You need to leave this house within 24 hours. Carolyn shot to her feet. Absolutely not! This is our home. No, I said softly. It never was, and now the law reflects that. Nathan stepped closer, desperation thick in his eyes. Madeline, we have nowhere to go. For months, I replied. You didn't care where Lily and I would go. I'm returning the same energy. Aubrey's voice cracked. Please, I can't be out on the street. You had a home, I said quietly. You just chose to enter mine? The room quivered with the weight of a fate they had written themselves. Then Garrett's phone buzzed. He checked the screen, his expression sharpening. Madeline, he said, you need to hear this. It's about Nathan. Garrett's expression darkened as he read the message on his phone. Madeline, Nathan's company just released an internal bulletin. The audit findings are worse than we thought. Nathan froze. Worse? What do you mean, worse? Garrett lifted his eyes slowly. They found signatures, your signatures, approving fraudulent reimbursements totaling over $80,000. It's being referred to the legal department first thing tomorrow morning. Aubrey gasped. Nathan, I didn't know it was that much. He rounded on her. You told me it was a few mistakes. She stumbled back. I thought it was. I didn't check. You never check, he snapped, voice cracking. Carolyn jumped between them. Stop blaming each other. We need to protect the family. Garrett cut in, voice sharp as steel. Protect yourselves. Madeline is no longer part of that equation. Nathan's head whipped toward me, panic replacing arrogance entirely. Madeline, please help me. You know how strict my compliance department is. They'll fire me. They might press charges. I met his gaze, and for the first time, he seemed to truly see me. Not the wife he could dismiss, not the woman he could betray, but the only person who had ever protected him from himself. And he realized she was gone. You made your choices, I said quietly. This is their consequence. He stepped closer, voice trembling. I can't lose my job. I can't lose everything. You already did, I replied. Carolyn grabbed my arm, nails digging into my skin. You vindictive little... Garrett moved between us instantly. Touch her again, and I'll file assault to go along with your financial crimes. Carolyn recoiled as though burned. Aubrey sank onto the couch, hand over her mouth. If Nathan goes down, I go down too. Nathan stared at her, really stared, and something snapped in his expression. You used me, he whispered. God, you used me. Aubrey burst into tears, but he didn't move to comfort her. That chapter had ended the moment he learned she wasn't sure the baby was his. The walls seemed to close in on all three of them. Fear, shame, unraveling pride. Their empire of lies was collapsing in real time. And then, a cry came from the staircase. Mommy? Lily stood there in her pajamas, eyes wide, small body trembling. Her question shattered the room. Are we leaving Daddy forever? Everyone turned to me, and I realized my answer would determine how this story ended. Lily's trembling voice cut deeper than any betrayal ever could. She stood on the staircase, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes shining with fear no child deserved. I walked toward her slowly, my heart softening, even as the room behind me crackled with tension. Kneeling, I brushed a curl from her cheek. Sweetheart, I murmured, you and I are going somewhere safe, somewhere peaceful. Her small fingers tightened around mine. Without Daddy? A silence fell so thick it felt like the walls absorbed it. Nathan swallowed hard, eyes glistening. Lily, I'm still your father. but she stepped closer to me instead. Even a child knows who protects her. I lifted her gently, turning to face the three people who had dismantled our home with their decisions, their entitlement, their selfishness. "Pack your things," I said calmly. "All of you. 24 hours. No exceptions." Carolyn sputtered. "You can't seriously be throwing us out. This is cruel. Heartless." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Cruel was inviting another woman into my home. Heartless was letting my daughter see you treat her mother like she didn't matter. Aubrey wiped tears from her face. "I'm pregnant. You can't do this." "You made that choice," I replied. "Now live with it." Nathan stepped forward, shaking. "Madeline, please, I know I messed up, but don't do this in front of Lily. Don't let her see us fall apart." I faced him fully. "She already did." His face crumpled. Garrett came to my side, steady and unshaken, his presence grounding me in a way I hadn't expected. "The officer's signature is valid," he reminded them. "Failure to leave voluntarily will result in law enforcement involvement." Carolyn gasped. "You wouldn't dare." Garrett lifted a brow. "Try me." The house buzzed with panic, Aubrey sobbing softly, Carolyn swearing under her breath, Nathan rubbing his temples as though crushing his skull could undo the truth. But amidst the chaos, Lily whispered in my ear, "Mommy, can we go now?" I kissed the top of her head. "Yes, baby. We're done here." I turned to Garrett. "Help me grab our essentials." He nodded. "Already planned for it." As he headed upstairs, Nathan took one last desperate step toward me. "Madeline, is there anything I can do to fix this?" I looked at him, really looked, at the man who chose lies over love. "Yes," I said softly, his eyes lit with hope. "Leave." By morning, the house felt nothing like the battlefield it had been hours before. Sunlight poured through the windows, warm and indifferent, as if cleansing what remained. But the tension still hung in the air, thick, metallic, sour, because consequences don't disappear with daylight. Garrett helped Lily and me carry our suitcases downstairs. She clung to her stuffed rabbit, calm now, as if she finally understood we were stepping into something better. In the living room, the three of them were shadows of the people who strutted so confidently the day before. Carolyn sat rigid on the couch, hair disheveled, pearls out of place. A queen dethroned. Aubrey hunched beside her, eyes red, cheeks blotchy, clutching her phone as if salvation lay in a message that would never come. Nathan stood near the window, staring out with hollow eyes, a man witnessing the ruins of his own making. When I entered the room, they all looked up. Nathan spoke first. "Madeline, please. I didn't sleep all night. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can try again." The audacity of regret arriving only after consequences. "I'm not coming back," I said gently. "And you're not stopping the eviction." He took a step toward me. "But Lily." "Lily," I said, "will have stability, peace, and a mother who isn't constantly humiliated." His face faltered. Carolyn scoffed, desperate to regain control. "You think you're better than us? You think taking this house makes you superior?" I met her gaze evenly. "No. I think respecting the people you claim to love does." Aubrey's voice cracked. "What about me? I have nowhere to go." Garrett answered before I could. "You'll have to speak with your employer. They've already been informed of the audit." Her eyes widened with terror. No, they can't." "They can," he said, "and they will." Nathan looked at me again, softer this time. "Madeline, I really did love you." Once, that sentence would have broken me. Now, it only felt like closure. I know, I said. You just didn't value me. He swallowed hard. I turned to Lily. Ready, sweetheart? She nodded. Ready. We stepped outside into a quiet, peaceful morning. Garrett locked the door behind us, the house now legally mine, but no longer my burden. As we reached his car, he paused, studying me. Madeline, he said carefully, there's something I haven't told you yet. I blinked. What is it? He took a breath. It's about your inheritance. Garrett's words froze me in place. My inheritance? I repeated, unsure whether I heard correctly. He nodded, guiding Lily gently into the back seat before turning back to me. Your aunt, your mother's older sister, passed away 6 months ago. She left behind a significant estate in California. They'd been searching for you. In the chaos of my collapsing marriage, I had ignored unfamiliar mail, unknown numbers, anything that looked like noise. But this wasn't noise. What kind of estate? I asked slowly. Garrett handed me a sealed envelope. A vineyard, a house overlooking Napa Valley, and a substantial trust. Madeline, you're not just stable, you're wealthy. The morning air shifted around me. For the first time in years, the weight on my chest eased, like the universe had been holding its breath, waiting for me to finally walk away from the wrong life so it could hand me the right one. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I whispered. Because you weren't ready to hear it, he said gently. You needed to leave that house because of your strength, not because of a safety net. I stared at him, and stunned by the quiet truth in his words. Then his voice softened. There's more. My breath caught. Garrett. He stepped closer, not invading, just present. I know you've been through hell. I know you need time, but I need you to understand something. His gaze held mine steadily. You and Lily deserve a life built on respect, on peace, on someone choosing you every single day, and I... The front door slammed. Nathan stumbled out, eyes swollen, voice cracking. Madeline, please don't leave like this. We can go to counseling. Start over. Just give me one more chance. But the moment felt surreal now, like a scene from a past life. I looked at him and felt nothing but distant pity. Nathan, I said softly, you didn't lose me because of another woman. You lost me because you didn't protect what we already had. He fell silent. Even he knew it was true. I turned away from him, toward the car, toward Lily, toward a future that finally felt like mine. Garrett opened the passenger door for me. Ready? I exhaled, the last remnants of my old life slipping away. Yes, I said. Let's go home. As the car pulled away, Lily leaned forward and whispered, Mommy, are we happy now? For the first time in so long, my answer came easily. We are, sweetheart. And behind us, the house that once caged me grew smaller and smaller, until it disappeared completely. So, that's where our story ends, my wonderful friends. And if you're still here, still listening at this very moment, then something in Madeline's journey must have touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength, or of a time you forgot you had any. What Madeline teaches us is simple but powerful. You are allowed to walk away from what breaks you. The Stoics said, you have power over your mind, not outside events, and that's exactly what she did. When life refused to be fair, she chose clarity over chaos, dignity over fear. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if something is out of your control, let it go. Sometimes letting go is the bravest form of healing. Maybe tonight, you're carrying your own silent battles. Maybe you stayed because you're searching for courage, or proof that resilience can bloom even from heartbreak. If that's you, I see you. And I promise, your story isn't over either. If this journey moved you, even a little, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Not just for us, but for the next person who needs a story that reminds them they are stronger than they think. You're not alone, and you never were. Before we wrap up, I want to make something clear for everyone watching, and for YouTube as well. The story you just experienced is a dramatic fictional narrative, created for emotional reflection and entertainment. It's not based on any real individuals or real events, and any resemblance to actual people or situations is purely coincidental. These kinds of stories are meant to inspire, to comfort, and to help us explore meaningful themes like resilience, self-worth, and personal growth. They give us a safe space to think about our own lives without placing blame on anyone in the real world. Thank you for understanding the purpose of this content, and for being part of a community that values thoughtful storytelling. Your support helps these narratives reach those who may need them most.